Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to TWitWoW Request Live number 13. This is the second half of this request. It was a combination live reaction and review. We already did our live reaction, so if you would like to check that out, just go to the channel. And if you're here live, it's the most recent video. Otherwise, it's titled TWitWoW Request Live Live Reactions, Women's Wrestling Revolution and Revolutionary. And this is our live review, not our live reactions. We've already reacted to it. Now we're here to review it. John, before we really get into the meat and potatoes of this show, give me just like a general overview how you felt about the show in general.
I had so much fun with this. I felt like this was one of those cards where, for the most part, I'm not saying it was the case with like every match, but for the most part, it seemed like this card had an ascending order in terms of quality.
I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah, and I felt like the main event was just absolutely brilliant. An exemplary technical contest between Kimber and Deonna Purrazzo, and really a lot of the undercard delivered too. Like, I gotta be honest, whatever the match of the night was on this show, it is a worthy discussion of spirited debate, because, I mean, you could say this. You could say Taeler Hendrix against Sonya Strong. You know, there were a lot of worthwhile bouts on this card, and I'll tell you, Jackie, for your first ever big TWitWoW request, because you got the full bundle, you certainly packed a punch, because this is a great show and really showed you just how extraordinary women's wrestling can be. So, yeah, nothing but good things.
You know what, dude? This show had 7 matches on it, and I think anywhere from enjoyed to thoroughly enjoyed 5 of the 7 matches. The only 2 that I'm a little more iffy about are the first one between Deviant and Karen Q, and then the tag match involving Candice, LeRae, Solo Darling, Miranda, Vionette, and Belmont. That one wasn't bad, but I'm just kind of more middle of the road on that one. You know what I mean?
I can understand why, and see, like, you really kind of echoed my sentiments, because the first bout, which again, structurally, I feel like this card, WWE should take notes from this show, because I feel like this is how you structure a card. Because, I mean, they knew, like, DV versus Karen Q, just the way those two worked, it screamed like, okay, we're just warming the crowd up. This is like an appetizer before we get to the good stuff. And the tag match, to me, I thought had great comedy spots. The baby faces were very likable. I really couldn't say much about Mistress Belmont, but I will say, though, that Miranda made quite an impression on me. So even the tag match gave me a lot. Yeah, it's only really the first match that I was kind of about, if I'm honest. But yeah, everything else was great.
I definitely think, as far as the tag match goes, Miranda definitely did stand out the most between the 4 women in that, but she also, I feel like, got probably the least amount of in-ring time out of the 4. So
exactly, yeah, I completely agree with you there, dude. I'm just excited to dig into this show with you formally in terms of a review.
Well, I mean, hey, let's just get into it then. Our first match was Devienne versus Karen Q, and we didn't actually recognize either one of these women. We've never seen either of them before, and you know, it wasn't a bad match by any means, but you could definitely kind of tell that this went first for a reason. There wasn't really anything special about this match. It was kind of, especially compared to like the main event, very plotting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, DV to me, and I don't want to be too insulting, because again, I had so much fun with the show, but something like an air of sloppiness, I felt like, to her, and that's actually not the first time I'll be saying that. There's another match where, surprisingly, I'll be making a similar criticism. I don't know if it was the venue or the structure of the ring, because there's only so much you can blame on the performers. The ring was a bit weird. I know you noted a few times how high the ring ropes were, but I'm like, yeah, I'm not really getting too much into her offense. Karen, she was serviceable. I mean, I really don't know like how like the range of her repertoire, because this wasn't like a 15 to 20 minute like classic by any means, but right. I think she hit all the proper narrative beats. And you know, the funny thing was, I think for us in terms of live reactions, we were going in blind on both of these women. So her winning with the double leg Boston Crab.
And it was, you know what, though, it was not just the I want to point out, that was a really, really well done double leg Boston Crab. Like, that was, yeah, that looked a lot more painful than even like the Walls of Jericho. So whether you want to chalk that up to Karen's execution, or if you want to chalk that up to DV's, you know, her ability to kind of take the move and sell it to make it look legit, or maybe a combination of the two, That was one of the more painful Boston Crabs I've ever seen in wrestling. So that's really, to me, that was the highlight of this match, was the finish.
I would agree with you. Yeah, because that form was beautiful. And yeah, I'm glad we got this match out of the way early, both in terms of card structure and our review, because really this show only goes up from here. So yeah, serviceable opener. Karen Q gets the win. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that, so we can move on.
All right, well, second match on the show was Santana Garrett filling in for who was supposed to be Jessica Havoc to take on Veda Scott.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, knowing how this match came together, given that Santana and Veda were supposed to have different opponents, man, did they make the best of this. I thought this was such a fun match. But partner, give me your full thoughts first. What did you think about this?
You know, I'm kind of starting to feel like Santana is kind of that Daniel Bryan type where, you know, she's just kind of there to do her job. She's just there because she enjoys wrestling, and if the promoter says you're losing, she's fine with it. It's not a big deal. She's not really a big time like Mark, like, oh no, I need to win every match like Goldberg was or anything like that. And to my honest opinion, I think that might even be to her detriment because she loses a lot more than she probably should because she is a very talented female wrestler. And I will say I did see more in Veda Scott in this match than A, I expected, and B, I've ever seen from her before. But I still think Santana was the standout here. I want to see more from her. I hope she goes far in the Mae Young Classic. And whether she does or not, I hope that WWE picks her up and really does something with her because she is a talent, and I just want to see more of her, period.
Yeah, I want somebody like a Santana or a Serena Deeb, you know, speaking in the context of the Mae Young Classic, to almost get like a Cedric Alexander moment where it's like, oh, please sign this woman, please. And yeah, Santana is very talented, but I actually want to make my focus more on Veda Scott because I'm used to her being the valet, or at least she used to be, you know, in Ring of Honor. And don't get me wrong, I have seen a few Veda Scott matches, but this is where my compliment comes in. None were as good as this. Like either she's really grown or I've just really finally gotten to see Veda in a very proper context because she did great heel work here, you know, kind of mocking Santana and being like, oh, you're going to be in the ring with a real television superstar. And then the way she worked the match, like to me, Veda just did great heel work here. Santana, and it's funny you mentioned Daniel Bryan because she does kind of exude to me that natural likability, whether it's the attire, just, you know, kind of oozing with that vibrancy and the colors, or just like the disposition she gives off. I mean, yeah, she is, and normally I know this is used as a put down. I do mean this as a compliment. You know, that cookie cutter kind of like girl next door kind of baby face that just works. Yeah. In fact, I mean, you know, she may even be a better Bayley than Bayley right now, given her kind of wonky booking. But yeah, very fun matchup. You know what though? The finish, I both like it because I think it plays to the strength of a heel. Like, oh, I caught you because you made a mistake. Because Santana went for a moonsault and she missed. She ate nothing but canvas, and then Veda just kind of stacks her up. On the other hand, though, I don't really know how I feel about it. Like, I don't know how I feel about it for Santana because you say like she does lose a lot, and her just being such a professional, maybe to her detriment. I don't know. I really don't know. I think on the whole, I do come down on the side of I like it, mainly because of how it makes the heel look. Like, oh, I just stacked her up and now I'm getting out of dodge. But I did kind of feel for Santana. They're just getting rolled up and that's it. You know, roll up of doom for the win. So what did you think about all of it?
Yeah, I feel very similar to you. I definitely see where you're coming from. I'm looking now. Santana has 95 matches on record, and she does have a losing record. She's 40, 54, and 1. And that's just the kind of the bigger promotions. I would say the smallest promotion that I'm seeing on here is like, I don't know, like AIW maybe, or FIP, somewhere along those lines. So it's not like this tiny little like backyard indie promotions. I don't know if she even works those, but she does tend to lose a lot. And it's not because, oh, well, she's not a good wrestler because she can't beat anyone. No, it's just straight up. It seems to me like she just kind of is okay with losing because she doesn't, you know, she would prefer to just have a spot on the card than, you know, trying to play politics and winning shit.
Well, I mean, I always commend a performer that isn't a mark for themselves because I know sometimes the temptation can be very hard.
And it's funny too because she is a former Shine champion. I know she held the title in Shine for a really long time.
Right. And yet she's still like, I'll do business, I'll lose so long as I can make, a great match doing it. And she certainly did that with Veda Scott. Again, this match really was stitched together because these two women both had different opponents going into this venue. And I'm actually grateful that they got to work together because I don't know if the matches that they were meant to work would have been as good as this match that we got. So yeah, very fun contest, and Veda Scott gets the win.
Yeah, and it's cool too because I'm actually looking now at the Shine Championship history, and Santana's reign was the densest as far as title defenses go. She had more title defenses per day of her title reign than anyone else, because 13 title defenses in 252 days, which ends up being like a little over 8 months or so. So the fact that she defended the title 13 times means she was defending it at a rate of about once every 3 weeks or so. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's a insane work rate for a champion defending their title. And
yeah, you call it work rate. I call her a workhorse.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I'm so happy that performers of her caliber are getting this shot in the Mae Young Classic, and I hope she's not a first-round elimination. I really hope she gets a show.
What really doesn't help her overall win-loss record, though, is that she went 1-12 in TNA because, of course, she did.
Wow. Fuck you so hard, TNA. But, yeah. I've got nothing else to say about this match. Very fun contest. Veda Scott gets the win. Unless you have anything out, we can move on.
It also doesn't help that she's 0-4 in NXT. So that's, it's really the two bigger promotions she's actually been in. She's not done so well.
Exactly.
All right. Well, yeah, this was kind of the first match of the night that made me go, wow, this is really cool. I'm glad we're watching this. And then we got into this tag match, and we had Candice LeRae teaming up with Solo Darling, who I think she's called the Sugar Princess or the Candy Princess.
The Sugar Creature, apparently, according to Jack.
Sugar Creature, okay. And I guess she comes to the ring with Solo's
Super
Slurpees, and apparently they're just pure sugar. And she has a gigantic lollipop that she also brings out that got used on her, I believe. So, yeah, this was kind of a goofy match. And then she and Candice were facing the team of Miranda, Vionette, and Mistress Belmont. And there was a third woman during the ring announcing here, but I'm not sure who it was. But it was kind of like this, like almost gothic faction of like vampires and dark, or I don't even know what to call it. But yeah, it was interesting for sure. I already mentioned earlier, to me, the standout performer in this match was Miranda Vionette. She had some really, really strong strikes, very stiff. She just impressed me more than I think anyone. And maybe that's just because Candice didn't really get into the ring for long. And when she was in the ring, it was mostly just her selling, which is kind of what she already does best. And we already knew that. But yeah, Miranda really stood out here to me. How about you?
Oh, I loved Miranda here. I actually was kind of wishing, for as much as I enjoyed the tag match, I was actually kind of wishing we'd get to see her in a singles context, just her having the ring all to herself, because I wanted to see the full range of what she could do. So yeah, she was definitely impressive. I did enjoy Solo Darling, though. And yeah, and from me, that's a bigger compliment, because most comedy gimmicks don't fly with me. Like, I have almost like a Hall of Fame of comedy gimmicks to me that work. You got the likes of Chucky T, Toriano, and I would put Solo Darling on the list. Like, I didn't think it was obnoxious. I actually thought they worked it into the match well, and it was believable because Miranda was handing them their asses. And so, yeah, to fire it back, because Solo super Slurpees, it worked. And hell, even Solo did some cool shit. She speared somebody on the ring apron, which I thought was sick as fuck. So, yeah, they did some really, really fun stuff. And Solo, I gotta be honest, and, I do love me some Nikki Cross for sure, but I think Solo's Fisherman Neckbreaker is one of the best I've seen, because the way she initiates the pin is gorgeous. The way she just kind of wraps that leg around and gets the pin going, I'm like, that's so clever. Why doesn't everybody do that? Because with most, right, it's the release after the neckbreaker, and then you do a standard pin with the leg hook. And Solo's just
but she kept it in almost like a cradle, like a small package almost.
Yeah, she cradled it, yeah. And I'm like, that is so brilliant. You know, and for me, and I've said this before, I try, not always successfully, but I do try to pay mind to the little things. And that to me is one of the little things that goes a long way and that matters, because that's like, wow, you really are trying to win, which only helps the believability of the situation, even though you come out with a giant freaking lollipop. So yeah, I actually really appreciated this tag match for what it was. I mean, Joey Ryan certainly did, because it provided a distraction for him to regain his DDT, Iron Man championship, which we'll get into that a little bit later as well. And yeah, this was just a fun match all around for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, this was a solid tag match. I would say, if we were grading all of these matches from best to worst, this would probably be number 6 on my list, with the opener being number 7. So, this is kind of what you were talking about when you said, like, in general, the matches got better and better, but this, I think, was the biggest exception, and then there was one other exception, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. Up next, though, our 4th match of the night. This was, the Santana versus Veda was good. That was really enjoyable, but this Taeler Hendrix versus Sonya Strong match, I feel like, was when this show went into a 4th gear for me.
Oh, dude, this match was so good. There were a few moments, mainly from Sonya's end, where I'm like, ooh, did that look too good? Like when she finally got the dive off, I'm like, that didn't look the best to me. But
it seemed like her legs might have gotten caught up in the ropes on the dive. So yeah,
right. So yeah, and that's why I even said earlier with the DV Karen match, like how much do you blame on the performers and how much do you blame just on the logistics of the ring and the venue and everything else? But even putting that aside, this was great. And you know what? I don't want to ignore Sonya, and I'm not trying to like breeze past her. But to me, Taeler Hendrix is the topic of conversation here, because to me, she's got such a well put together character that she's almost kind of made into her brand, the whole gingerlicious, poison ivy in real life, but really committing to it. Because that's why, like, I know you said earlier in our live reactions, you don't like that Peyton Royce is taking that route. And my thing is, I don't like it either, but my reasoning is, like, I don't think she's committed to it enough. When you see Taeler Hendrix with the red hair and the green attire and the kiss goodnight, like, she's committed. Because that's all of those references to that source material. Peyton, to me, the only references are maybe the ring attire occasionally and the flower she comes out with. That's it. And I'm like...
Yeah. Taeler is definitely more suited and committed to the poison ivy gimmick.
Yeah, and it works. It works. Like, and that's why, like, that's what irritates me, because, and again, that's not a knock on Peyton. I adore that woman, and I think in ring she's one of the best competitors NXT has. It's just, don't take a dressing if you're not going to take it all the way. And Taeler Hendrix, you can look at her and you could see her profile. Again, she just got done a what was it, like a death match of honor or a war without honor feud, and I forget, Mandy Leon, I think you said, was the other person when we were kind of talking about that with Jackie. And her profile's gotten much higher since this show, because this show was last year. And I'm very happy for her, because you can see the work in this match, and it's like, she gets it. She was great as a heel, felt very cocky, very arrogant, always seemed like in certain parts of the match one step ahead of Sonya, and like, oh, I've got this, which made Sonya a virtual unknown to me. We were able to foster that connection because I'm waiting for her to make the comeback. And then when she's rallying these moves off, it's like Taylor's like selling her ass off and really making it seem like, oh man, maybe I stepped in it too deep. And then, of course, the match ends the way it does. And Taylor's just, she's great. I can't say enough good things about her coming out of this bout. And honestly, I'd say, oh, NXT would be smart to pick her up. But honestly, I think with her aesthetic and everything, she could be another great Lucha Underground pick. Because, I mean, Katrina's already got the sensuality and stuff down, but if that vacuum ever opens up, or even if they want somebody to compete with Katrina or whatever, I think Taeler Hendrix would fit quite nicely with the LU aesthetic. So, yeah, big on her after this match for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely buying into the Taeler Hendrix hype.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what kind of conversations we're going to be having about her in a few years' time, like within the next year or two, but I hope it's bigger than what we're having right now, because I just feel like she's on that trajectory. And again, this is only like one match I've seen. The only other exposure I've seen is her like being a valet to Jay Lethal when he was Ring of Honor World Champion. But knowing that this is how she works in the ring, because she knows how to use her legs like with kicks and stuff like that, the kiss goodnight is such a great finisher because of how it plays into the gimmick. Like, I love that. I love it. Just the kiss and then bam, the tombstone. And, yeah, I think it's so well put together and you really see the effort in it. And this was definitely one of the standout bouts of the show. But I mean, you initially said that, so I want you to give your full thoughts as well. Like, what really jumped out at you about all this?
This match to me was sort of the first part of the night that made me go like, wow, yeah, this was the correct decision for sure. This was like, this match really kind of stepped up to the sort of the pace, the vibe, the feel, the energy of the whole show for me. Because again, like Veda versus Santana was fun, but then the finish was kind of a letdown. This match was great from beginning to end, and it had a satisfying finish with, like you said, the kiss goodnight, that tombstone. It's nice to see that somebody who uses the tombstone still uses it as a finisher rather than just a setup move the way Okada does. But yeah, man, Taeler impressed me. Again, we kind of talked about this during our live reactions. Prior to this show, I was always kind of just under the impression that Taeler was the eye candy valet type. I never really thought of her as a serious wrestler. And here we are proving me wrong, which I'm happy to be wrong on this one because, yeah, she was really good in this. I definitely got sort of a lucha vibe from Sonya Strong as well. We saw lucha arm drag. We saw some Hurricane Ranas. We saw, obviously, the suicide dive is a very lucha thing to do nowadays. But, yeah, she was pretty solid. I definitely don't think that I would put her on the same level as Taeler just because Taeler, even if she's not the most technically sound performer, her works her character to its absolute limit. Like, she is over the top with the character work, and it makes her matches that much more compelling. And really, she made Sonya more likable, I guess you could say, in this match to a degree, because, you know, she kind of pulled off, like you said, like the Poison Ivy thing, and it made people get more behind Sonya, wanting her to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and just one more remark I want to make in Taeler's favor, because I just love how committed to this gimmick she is, because you and I both admitted on live reactions, our initial impressions of Taeler were like, okay, she's the eye candy, because obviously she's this breathtaking woman, you know, whatever. And I love how she makes very clearly the sensuality that she exudes work for her, because I guarantee you that impression that you and I had is pretty commonplace from a lot of first-time viewers of Taeler Hendrix. They're probably like, oh, she's beautiful, so we're going to get the other woman, like, rip her clothes off, right, and get, like, a bra reveal spot or something, right? And then you see Taeler pulling out these tombstones and shit, and you're immediately taken in, just like a Poison Ivy character, either taken in by a Venus flytrap or vines or whatever kind of metaphor you want to use. I love that. I love that she can sucker you in with that sensuality, and then she's like, oh, yeah, did I mention I can fucking work? So, yeah, eyes up here, and I love it. I love everything about this. I think she's one of the more put-together female wrestlers I've seen in terms of character synthesized with moveset, and we may, again, be having bigger conversations about her depending on how her 2018 goes, because sky's the limit for her as far as I'm concerned.
I love that you're jumping to 2018 already when 2017 is barely more than halfway over.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't know, what is she doing right now? Is she still in Ring of Honor? Like, who's she working for right now? Because I always look at like a New Year's.
She's definitely still. I mean, she's still definitely in Women of Honor, but let me look and see where else she's working. Queens of Combat, it looks like, and that's all I'm seeing. I'm sure she's working elsewhere though. She's not just working for those two promotions. She's a free agent though. She's an indie, you know, just kind of working wherever they want to pay her. She'll go.
I mean, I guess WWE could still scoop her up in time. I guess my mindset's kind of like, well, we already had the Mae Young. We're going to have the Mae Young Classic. She wasn't a part of it. So I guess like all the women that we're going to have for like the rest of the year and that we're going to want to build is going to come from this tournament. But 2018 is a clean slate. And I would be shocked if they did not give her a phone call because, yeah, everybody should be competing for her. And again, I'm personally rooting for Lucha to scoop her up. Because I think with their writing and their cinematics and everything, and with how committed Taeler is to this character, they could do so much. So, yes, please. I want to see more of this. This is a great match. Nothing but good things to say about it. Unless you have anything more to add, we can move on.
All right, then we had our fifth match of the night, and this was another example of somebody I'd heard of but didn't really know much about, really impressing me. But this time it happened with both competitors because both Jordynne Grace and Mia Yim impressed the hell out of me here. I had always heard that Mia Yim was really good, but I had seen some of her work in TNA with the Dollhouse, and I wasn't impressed. This match was really good, though. Honestly, I'm struggling what my match of the night was between this and the main event. I really did enjoy the main event from a psychology standpoint, but to me, this match gives it a run for its money as far as match quality goes.
Oh, well, partner, I mean, continue, because for me, and I'm only going to say this a little bit before handing back to you, I thought this match told a great story because from the beginning you have, I mean, let's just kind of, fast forward. Joey Ryan loses the DDT Iron Man Championship to Mia Yim. She kicks him right in the head and pins him. And then this match then, because it's 24/7 rules, becomes an Iron Man Championship kind of match. And I just feel like the story between, this very beloved competitor in Mia Yim, because, I mean, Jackie was at the show and she alerted us in chat. She was the most over woman in the building against Jordynne Grace, who isn't necessarily a bully. I mean, there's another competitor that would very easily fit that description. We'll get to her in a few moments. But, definitely had the power and stuff like that. And I felt like with her power and Mia Yim just being that smaller competitor but having the speed and the technical acumen, they told an excellent story. So, I mean, go in depth because, I mean, you clearly, again, if you had this debate, I want to hear everything you have to say about this and the main event later on. So,
here's the thing, John. With Jordynne Grace, I know that our boy Caltag Star has a thing for the bigger ladies. He always goes out. I mean, he is obsessed with Piper Niven, aka Viper. He loves her. And when he brought up Jordynne Grace, I was like, oh, well, that's just another big lady that he likes, and it's going to be another one that I'm not going to be impressed by because I've seen a Viper match, and it was against Toni Storm, so there was no reason for it to be anything but great, and it wasn't. It wasn't horrible by any means, but I felt like watching the match, it felt like Toni Storm did 90% of the work, and all Viper really did was just be big. Like, that's all she did was like, oh, Toni Storm tries to lift her up and then falls over because she's too heavy, or like, oh, she does like a running crossbody, or like she was just using her body weight the whole time, and there was really nothing impressive about Viper to me in that match. But Jordynne Grace, first of all, immediately as soon as the ref or the announcer said her name to announce that she was in the match, she does like a front roll and poses, and then she does like the flex pose, and I'm just like, okay, well, immediately I'm feeling like she's more athletic than Viper. And then throughout the match, you really do get a sense that, first of all, her strikes are crisp. Second of all, she moves very well. Third of all, she is built more like a power lifter than just, oh, she's fat or anything like that. She is built like a power lifter. She's got like a thick lower body, broad shoulders, but then she's got the slimmer waist. So yeah, like to me, when I look at her build, she reminds me of what I would imagine a female powerlifter would be built like. So yeah, that to me again, and plus the way that she moves like an athlete. She doesn't move like just a big girl trying to play wrestler, and that's what Viper looks like to me.
And if I'm being honest, just from one match exposure, that's how Devi came off to me in the first match, because I really wasn't that impressed with her at all.
And that's the thing too, is that like Devi, she actually did end up showing up then again at the end of the
tag match.
The Candice LeRae solo darling Miranda Mistress Belmont match. She ended up showing up at the end of that, and then two other women showed up. I don't even remember what their names are anymore. I know Jackie told us what their names were during the live reaction, but I've already forgotten, so apologies for that. But yeah, like to me, I agree with you. I would say that Devi felt more along like the Viper lines, where she is a big girl who wrestles, but Jordynne felt like an athlete to me. And that's my thing, is like even like in WWE, Bull Dempsey felt like a big guy who wrestled. Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens feel like athletes to me. You know what I mean? That's the difference.
Yeah, exactly.
So and really Mia Yim is a freaking ring general at this point. Like she was great in this match. Her strikes are excellent. She's got a submission game. Like I said, her strikes are on point. In this match, we saw her go for a package pile driver, and even though it didn't work, I know that is one of the moves that she does use as a finisher. plus the way that she won with a Yoshi tonic, which is just a freaking cool move. And the fact that A, she's athletic enough to pull it off, and B, Jordynne is athletic enough to take the move and sell it. It just, yeah, these women, to me, this was the surprise match of the night for me. And it's mostly because I had lower expectations. And it's not even because like, oh, these girls suck. It's because I've seen Mia Yim work in TNA and she was solid, but I felt like she was overhyped because people were like building her up to this level. It's like, oh, she's the next Gail Kim. And I was like, you're setting the bar a little high there. And then I saw her work here and it was like, okay, I get it. Next Gail Kim makes sense. And with Jordynne, it was another one of those cases where I was like, she's just a big girl wrestling. And then it turns out like, no, she's athletic and she's actually really strong and she can do pretty much anything. So yeah, this match really, really impressed me and overwhelmingly succeeded or exceeded, I should say, my expectations.
Yeah, I've learned, not to make this about another promotion, we're talking about Women's Wrestling Revolution, but I've learned that if I'm seeing a competitor in TNA, not to base all of my feelings on that, because, I mean, again, you just talked about Santana Garrett's record there, and clearly they don't know talent when they have it. But, yeah, this match, you pretty much echoed all of my sentiments. I really don't even know what I could add without being redundant. But, again, I loved that Jordynne Grace, she did have that athleticism with that power game. I think we saw a swing bottom out of her at one point, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yep.
She worked the bear hug, which I love when bigger competitors like do that, or stronger competitors, because again, it is, I use the term like elementary or rudimentary kind of hold, but it's a great narrative tool when you feel like you've got a power differential over somebody, and I feel like they utilized it beautifully. Mia Yim, I gotta tell you, because you saw at certain points in the show, and then that had to be the only down point. I can't speak much about it because, for live reactions, I always have my audio muted. The only time I turned it up was for Veda's promo. But there were comments like in the live chat about how dead the crowd was in parts, and how certain competitors had to be like, oh, come on, guys, get into it. Well, Mia really didn't have to work that hard. And when she had the crowd, like, she never really let them go. She came off incredibly well as the sympathetic face, knew how to work the match, knew how to sell the fatigue. And really, I even have to give Mia credit because knowing that she had to defend the title that she just won, I even love the little theatrics there from her. Like, do I really have to part with it? Does it really have to be a time limit? And she's like, oh, okay. And she does it and she fights and she keeps it. And I got to say, the one thing I was worried about with this show, and I'm so glad they didn't do it because I feel like it would have been unnecessary, because of the 24/7 rules of the DDT Iron Man title, like, I thought somebody was going to sneak up from behind her after that grueling match, right? Stack her up and get the win. Now, I wouldn't have ranted about it, but why I'm glad they didn't do it is I feel like after a contest like that where the babyface, even by designation from the crowd, prevails, you need to let the moment breathe, because I feel like that's the cathartic moment, right? Where it's like, oh, she's okay. And so I'm really glad. The only thing that I could add that you didn't say, because you spoke so well for both of us, is I really love how the finish was handled, because she beat Jordynne legitimately. It's not like she caught her in a roll-up or anything like that. It was a Yoshi tonic. And then they let the moment breathe because she was the most over woman there. We all got to experience that catharsis. And really, it made the DDT Iron Man Championship look great, because you already gave the rundown on live reactions. I mean, you're talking, I believe a table at one time was the champion. It changed hands over rock, paper, scissors. Like, we've seen the videos of just the ridiculous title changes, and that was a legit wrestling contest. And the idea that they were able to really let both women and the belt have that, I feel like there were really no losers here, except for Jordynne Grace, but I mean loser in a different context. So great stuff from everybody.
Yeah, definitely. And that was, I think, the bigger reason that stood out to me too was I feel like this match might have even been a little bit longer than the main event. I think it might have gotten a little more time. So maybe that's another reason why it resonated me a little bit more. I don't know. But yeah, this match in the main event were the clear-cut best matches on this show. Would you agree with that at least? Or
certainly. No, I think it was the main event and Taeler Hendrix' match, because I fell in love with Taeler Hendrix tonight beyond an aesthetic perspective, because I mean, she showed me she can go. A lot of these women did. I'm so grateful we experienced this, and then this match for sure was just a testament to that sentiment, because this is great.
All right, well then let's get to our semi-main event: Alexis Nevaeh versus LuFisto. And this was, I believe, both of our first experiences with either one of these women, but the reason is worth pointing out that it's the first time either of us has seen LuFisto is because this woman is a women's wrestling legend in the U.S.
Yes, and getting
LuFisto
to see her work.
He's like in like the Mount Rushmore of women's wrestlers in the U.S. with like Nicole Matthews, Madison Eagles, cheerleader Melissa, Mercedes Martinez. Like, she's in that group.
Right, so that's an elite company to keep. And yeah, I love this match. Again, much like the Mia Yim Jordynne Grace matchup, I thought this told a great story, because for so much of it, it seemed like Alexis was just getting straight up bullied by LuFisto. And I love that she owned it too. There was one point in this match, I don't know if it was either chops or shoulder blocks that Alexis was trying to get off.
Shoulder blocks.
And LuFisto just, I knew it was shoulder blocks. Thank you for confirming that for me. Because yeah, Alexis is trying to get the shoulders, and the look on LuFisto's face was like, bitch, are we seriously doing this spot right now?
Yeah, well, the thing is, LuFisto is a little bit shorter than Alexis and a little bit heavier than Alexis. Like, I think I saw that the Alexis was billed at 5'6", 120, and LuFisto is billed at 5'3", 140. So, you know, LuFisto is undeniably denser than, and you could tell that just by looking at him, but even, you know, objectively looking at the numbers, she's denser, she's got more stopping power than Alexis. So really, it's like CJ Parker trying to knock down Ishii. Like, you can try all you want, but it's futile.
Yeah, and that's what LuFisto's face perfectly conveyed. Like, I loved the body language from LuFisto, you know, just from irritation with the shoulder blocks to enjoyment when she was in control. And then she had that altercation, you know, towards the end with the faction. So yeah, LuFisto showed up. I feel like she played the bully exceptionally well. Her body language was on point because she just had that menacing quality about her, and she was enjoying it. And, you know, Alexis, up until like the faction involvement, really was just great at being sympathetic. Her comeback seemed meaningful given the credibility of her opposition. Like, I feel like these two women did such an exceptional job putting that story together. But ultimately, LuFisto got a bit too much of a toot problem, you know, with people in the audience. She's going for a burning hammer, and she gets a drink thrown on her, and then Alexis pretty much capitalizes with the pin and gets the win off of that. So, yeah, man, great.
I'm telling you, the reason that I can't really say that this match really did it for me and that I would put it in my top 2 or even 3, because like you said, I enjoyed the Taeler Hendrix match probably more than this, and maybe this match might even be 5th for me, because I might have even enjoyed Santana Veda more than this, but again, that had a wonky finish too, so hard to say. But the big reason is it was hard for me to feel sympathy for LuFisto when I felt like the entire match was built around us, or them trying to get us to want Alexis to overcome the odds.
Yeah, and then I do agree with you, right? I do agree with you, and that's why I wish they would have done it another way, because I do feel like they told a great story. But see, the thing about a story like that is, right, is that the babyface has to draw from their own well of power. Like, right. What do I have within me? How resilient am I? The moment you get help from your environment, and I'm not even saying like using your environment, that's perfectly legal because that's still coming from your acumen, your ability. I'm talking about like what we saw, the drink throw, you know, the cussing, the distracting. It's not about you anymore. It's about Alexis and friends, which is cool if that's the story you're telling from the beginning. But then to me, LuFisto should be the face here because she's the one with the handicap now, not Alexis. So,
right. I'm actually going to say, I know it's probably really easy to be like, oh, LuFisto shouldn't have been acting like such a heel in this match. But I feel like that's just her style. To me, anyone can work that style and be face or heel because that's a universal style. That's a style that's like, no, I'm an ass kicker. You can cheer for that person. You can hate that person. It really does come down to Alexis should have been basically wrestling this match like Naito. She should have been disrespecting LuFisto, spitting in her face, slapping her, messing around with her hair, like I feel like Alexis should have done more to get people to hate her, to get people to feel more catharsis when LuFisto hit her with those big strikes and forearms and chops and shit like that. And it felt more like Alexis was just kind of wrestling this like a standard match where you really want in this situation for her to go more out of her way to do heelish things.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of build on what you said, I mean, I liked your parallel, like Alexis should have worked more like Naito. And even if they didn't want to do that, you could have had Alexis work more like Alexa Bliss, one of the, few women that I feel like is being used consistently well right now at the moment on the main roster. Because, like, I've seen her, and I know you have too, working those matches with Nia Jax, and what does she do? She may slap Nia Jax in the face, but then be like, oh, crap, and then try and create distance,
right.
Try and run away.
Or even, like, I was thinking even, like, late 90s, like, DX Triple H, where it's just like, oh, I'm going to have, like, someone distract the ref and go for, like, a low blow, or use, like, eye rakes, or fish hooks, and, like, just wrestle dirty. It felt too clean from Alexis, knowing that we were supposed to be rooting against her this whole time. I felt very sort of derailed, I guess you could say, when like those guys got involved and LuFisto was getting all up in their faces, and the next thing you know, they end up costing LuFisto the match, and then Alexis rides out on one of their shoulders. Like that felt very like Bullet Club heel faction to me, but up until that point, I felt like LuFisto was more the heel of the match. So it was very jarring.
Yeah, I feel like pro wrestling, it really doesn't matter about gender. This is more a broad-based point. I feel like there's only emotional manipulation in the sense of, okay, this is the person we want you to cheer. This is the person we want you to boo. And sometimes you will be successful in that endeavor, and other times not. And I feel like with the presentation here, they were working me emotionally, which I mean is a compliment. I was invested. But then when all that goes down in the final few minutes, that was such a jolt to my system because I'm like, wait, what? Are we not reading the same story that I thought we were reading? Like, what story is being told here? Regardless, though, I won't knock the match too much for that. I am a bit iffy about it, but I still thought it was an entertaining contest. I can't wait to talk about our main event, though, so really that does it for me for the semi-main. Unless you have anything to add, we can move on.
Well, I mean, hell, you already brought it up. Let's get into our main event then. We've got Kimber versus Deonna Purrazzo, and this was a technical wrestling match for sure. As close to a technical wrestling masterpiece as you're going to get in the maybe like 12 or 15 minutes that these women got to use it. Yeah, this was a really fun match. I think Deonna impressed me more than Kimber, but that's more because I had more expectations for Kimber, because I know that she has already, I mean, you already talked about her in Force 1. She's already been the Chikara Grand Champion, so she better be freaking good. I had more expectations for Kimber, whereas with Deonna, she comes into this with the only real experience I've ever had of seeing her wrestle being A, getting beat up by Asuka on NXT, and B, a relatively boring match on Women of Honor with Candice LeRae. So really, I had low expectations for Deonna, and she ended up blowing those expectations out of the water.
Is there anything else you want to say about the match before I take this away? Because I do have quite a bit to say, but I know you, again, were having the debate whether this was your match of the night, or what was the other bout you were really debating? Was it the Hendrix bout? It was Mia Yim. It was Mia Yim versus Jordynne Grace.
Jordynne Grace versus Mia Yim was the other one. And then,
so if you want to give, your
I would say Taeler and Sonya would be 3 on that list.
Right. So if you want to give like your full thoughts, because again, I know I have quite a bit to say, and I know when I get to talking, I don't stop. So if you want to talk about what you felt like this match is right.
I feel like I got to talk more about the Jordynne Grace Mia Yim match because I feel like I appreciated that match more. So I think you appreciate this match more. So I'm going to back off and let you say more.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, partner, because, I mean, first I want to build as kind of a jumping off point what you said when you talked about expectations. I had no expectations for Deonna Purrazzo, if I'm honest, because to me, I thought Kimber was kind of the attraction here, and no doubt her name does have a certain drawing power within circles of, like, women's wrestling fans. My thing with Kimber, I wouldn't necessarily call it high expectations like you. I mean, obviously they were there. For me, it was more, okay, Kimber, how much have you grown from the last time I really got to see you? Because in Force 1, they had no women's division. I think she was still relatively new to the business because she was in her very early 20s, if I remember. She was 21 when she was Princess Palm Strike and then had her heel turn. And the matches, I don't ever really remember being like all that like astounding. So I'm like, okay, Kimber, how far have you come? And pleasantly, the answer's pretty damn far. Like, I thought these women did amazing. I love that they took the technical approach because anybody that knows me knows I love technical wrestling. I love that scientific shit because I think there's still a part of me, you know, when I was a kid, I love when they can make it feel like a real fight, like a real athletic contest, like who the better person is. Kimberly is one of the best arm bars I've seen. The way she powers into it, you know, with the leg, forcing the opponent down, that was great. Deonna's psychology was on point. I actually wish we would have seen more of that from Kimber because you were going for the arm finish too, but I don't feel like you worked over the arm nearly as much as Deonna did. Deonna had a whole sequence where all she's doing is beating down on Kimberly's arm. And I love she goes for the Fujiwara the first time, but Kimberly knows to keep like her body off the canvas. You know, she's not fully down for that leverage. And then they had another great sequence where one of them's trying to get a German off and just so as many counters to a waist lock as you can conceivably, you know, think of. It was done here. And then Kimberly, you know, gets the German, but then a few moments later, Deonna gets one of hers right back. And yeah, this was just, I think, the purest wrestling bout potentially on the whole show. Again, I think much like you were saying, it was this, or it was Mia Yim versus Jordynne Grace, who was very surprising in her athleticism. Yeah, I adored this, and I thought the finish made sense. That's what I love too, because we talked about like with, you know, with Santana and Veda, and then Alexxis, LuFisto, that it was kind of wonky. This was straight up, and it told its story completely, because the story was Deonna, you know, working over the arm, and, you know, which was news to me, defending, you know, a still very embryonic, you know, still very young, but an existing nonetheless undefeated record against somebody very established like Kimberly. And one thing I have to give this show credit for, because let's keep this in mind, and I'm just saying this because it seems more like an outlier rather than standard practice. The title match on this show was the DDT Iron Man, which was earlier in the night. There were no titles at stake. This was just a purely athletic bout, like who the better woman is. And you know something? It worked. Like that is such a basic story. That's probably the most.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there actually isn't a championship in this promotion. I don't think Women's Wrestling Revolution has a championship yet. But to be fair, they've literally only been running since, I think, April of 2016. So it's still in its infant stages of its existence as a promotion. It's still a very young promotion.
Right, and when it does get titles introduced, who knows? Maybe Deonna will be the inaugural champion. You never know if they go back to that because she does win with the Fujiwara.
Maybe by the time they introduce titles, Deonna will already have that NXT contract to be signed up by WWE.
You know, man, I hope so, because I got to give credit, folks, to my co-ordinating commentary here, because he said, like, because you were drawing the parallels, like, between her and Asuka, and, like, oh, how, like, they just bitched her out to Asuka, but you see, like, how Deonna works, and she even has, again, very young yet, but undefeated streak, and it's like, wow, you could have done a very similar story in NXT, and I feel like they kind of did with the first Ember Moon Asuka matchup, but, like, and I get why they did it, and I'm not mad, but, like, Asuka going heel, like, then they kind of evolved the story, whereas here with Deonna and Kimber, it was just, again, a straight-up wrestling match, and I loved, and I think what I'm trying to say, and then I'm going to hand the ball back to you, is given that no title was at stake, given that Deonna's streak is very young, so you can't make a production about that, this was just simply go out, wrestle, and let's find out who the better competitor is. And normally, I think because I have been spoiled by New Japan, by Lucha Underground, like that simplicity wouldn't do it for me as much anymore. But I think it shows if you got the right competitors, it still has mileage. And I think it had mileage here. There was a lot of beauty in its simplicity, and I thoroughly enjoyed this main event. Definitely my match of the night for sure. So
yeah, I kind of figured you would say that, and that's why I wanted you to talk about this, because like it seems like there's a pretty wide gap between this and your next best match, and for me, this and the next best match are really close, and then there's a wider gap between them and the next best match after that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So yeah, that's really cool though. I'm glad that you were so into this match, just like I'm sure you're glad I was so into the Jordynne Grace Mia Yim match. And yeah, this was a really fun show. We have free trials, so we might as well check out some of the other shows. If If any of you guys want for us to live react to any of their other shows, you can donate to the Patreon to make that happen. But for now, I think we're just going to watch them. I think we're just going to check them out, see what some of these other shows are like. And hey, maybe we will talk to you guys who are in the Discord about the other shows and kind of fill you in, maybe tell you which ones are worth watching, which matches we liked, which matches we didn't like, our thoughts on the performers, maybe some new performers we haven't seen yet, that kind of stuff. But for now, I think that's about all we have to say about Revolutionary.
Yeah, I'm good, honestly, because I know we always do like our scores and our overall thoughts. I would give this show, I'm really waffling between an 8.5 and a 9 because the first match again looked kind of meh.
It's funny you say that because I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10.
You know what? And I think just because I adored that main event and Taeler Hendrix was a revelation to me on this show and Mia Yim killed it, like I think all the good for me was so good. I am going to go just a little step above and say 8.5 out of 10. This was fantastic. And you know something? Yeah. I want to close with this for me, and then you can do your personal outro plus taking us home. You and I would like to think that we're not ignorant guys on here. I would like to think that we are aware that women's wrestling, is in a good place. There are a lot of very talented female competitors, not even just classifying them as women, but just as wrestlers in general. Like, I do believe you and I are aware, but it's always nice to get reminders like this. And I'm glad shows like this exist because whether you're quote unquote ignorant or not, it's always nice to know that there's more than just Sasha or Bailey or this one or that one. There are these women on the indies working their asses off and killing it. And you've got gems right now like a Deonna, who apparently was grossly misused after the main event I saw. Kimberly, who's really come into her own since the last time I saw her so many years ago. And Taeler Hendrix, who, for my money, if she isn't already, is going to be the talk of the wrestling world, especially in the women's sphere of it, within the next maybe 2-3 years at most, because that is a very well put together performer. So I am grateful for this show. I'm more grateful to Jackie to bringing it to us, for being a patron, for contributing to what we do. And yeah, this was one of my favorite requests I think that we've done in a while. This was great. I had so much fun with this.
Yeah, so. And I mean, you brought up Taeler being like a big sensation. She's only 28, so she's still got plenty of time. That could very easily happen. And speaking of ages too, from what I understand, the youngest performer on this show was actually Jordynne Grace at 21 years old.
That's amazing. I love the youth movement we've got going on in pro wrestling right now, and it's so wonderful to see that it extends to the women just as much as the men, because so much talent right now. If only the big fish that everybody wants to seem to go to, WWE, if only they'd get their writing together, because you owe all of these performers, male and female, that. They all want to come to you. They all want to go to you. Do better by them, really, because I gotta be honest, I know they all want to be there, but I look at a Taeler Hendrix and I'm like, would they really take full advantage of what they have here? And I don't think they would. And see, you just straight up said, no, I was at least going to be, I'm very skeptical. But yeah, you're right. My heart says no.
That's the thing, though, dude. There's no way they sign Taeler. There's a 0% chance that happens.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, stranger things have happened, but right now, I don't even know.
You gotta remember, dude, I mean, there's actually been, Carly Perez has actually done interviews where she straight up said that the WWE asked her to lose weight. Like, she has a body, like, she's ridiculously fit and she's in amazing shape and she's got these ridiculous curves, and WWE asked her to lose weight. And then you look at Taeler and she's even curvier than Carly. There's no way WWE would pick her up. There's no.
How can you tell these, which again, like, I'm not even trying to objectify, but like when you say weight, clearly you're invoking aesthetic, right? Because it's like, oh, we want you to look a certain way. These women are freaking beautiful. I don't know what you're seeing right now, lose weight. That is simple. And plus, getting back to what actually matters, the nature of the job. If you can work a fucking match, which Taeler did, and we're going to see Carly do at Ultimate Lucha Trace, and that's not jumping the gun. We've known about that forever now. You know,
and,
like...
which WWE seems willing to sign people who can't even do, given Eva Marie, Lana, and Dana Brooke.
Exactly. Like, so don't fucking come at me, speaking of the WWE now, fucking lose weight. See, I'm glad I got fired up at the end, though, because, again, I'm grateful for fucking shows like this that don't have waiting at the door for the women to enter a scale just to make sure they're ready to go tonight. Fuck that, man. This show kicked ass. I applaud all these women. I applaud the state of women's wrestling, you know, beyond the WWE bubble where we're such revolutionaries. Yeah, you fucking wish. Great job to the women's indie scene and shows like this for coming together. I loved it. And you know what, Taeler Hendrix, I really, really hope we see you in Lucha Underground soon or wherever your heart desires, because you are killing it right now. Great to see Mia Yim do what she does best. And Kimber and Deonna, god damn, did you guys light the show on fire. So, Ashton, you can both take us home. But if you have any final thoughts, I mean, please do share them, because I'm all about this show. This is great.
Oh, no, I feel like I've already gotten all my thoughts out, and anything else that I would have said, you've already said for me. So I'm going to just close us out here. Going to take us home. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you enjoyed our live reactions. And Jackie, especially, we hope that you enjoyed our live reaction and review here. We hope that you guys check out this show. If you didn't listen to us and watch the show simultaneously, we hope that you do kind of that little simulcast with the visual of the show and the audio of our live reactions at the same time. At some time in the future, you can get a free trial to the Beyond Demand YouTube channel. I actually spelled that out if you're not sure how to spell that in our live reactions. So check that out if you get the chance. And you know what? I mean, hell, it's a free trial, but if you can afford it, you can give them some money as well. Get a subscription if you want to keep up with the product. But I think it's, what is it, John? It's like $7, $8, $9.
It's $9.99 a month, so same as the network. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, hey, if you have the $10 to shell out, you don't want new WWE Network because that's just a trash product. If you don't want to get New Japan World because maybe your bank doesn't allow for international transfers, or maybe you're just not into New Japan and you want to try something new, check this out. If you don't want to shell out the whole $10, you only maybe want to shell out $3 and you want to support TWitWoW, you can obviously check our Discord option out on the Patreon. It's only $3 a month. And it allows you access to the official TWitWoW patron Discord, where we will probably be talking about other Women's Wrestling Revolution and maybe even some other Beyond Wrestling shows. And then we'll be able to discuss those with you. If you get in now, if you get those $3 in now today before midnight tonight, we will be able to add you to the Discord tomorrow. That's how quick this is going to be. It is July 31st right now. Get your $3 into the Patreon now, and we will get you into the Discord tomorrow, August 1st, as soon as the payment is processed. It's that easy. And then you'll have access to the Discord for the entire month of August, which spans the final 9 days of G1. We've got NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3. We've got SummerSlam. We've got the first Mae Young Classic show. And, of course, as I've been talking about here, we might be checking out some more of these Women's Wrestling Revolution or maybe even some Beyond Wrestling shows, since we are on the free trial to that channel right now. Lots of different things that we're going to be talking about, whether it's going to be on a video or just in the Discord with our hardcore fans that have donated. And, hey, if you don't want to donate and not get anything physical in return, if you do want something physical, something you can touch, something you can feel in return for your hard-earned money, you can check out the official TWitWoW Teespring store. You can buy a t-shirt, you can buy a mug, you can buy a sticker. Any of the above supports us and get something physical in your hands for your support. And then, of course, be sure to like this video. Be sure to comment when it's fully processed. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And when you do, click the bell so that you get notified when we go live. And finally, like both of us on, or not both of us, follow both of us on Twitter. Like the official TWitWoW Facebook page. And if you are on Reddit, check out the official TWitWoW subreddit. And until tomorrow night, guys, not even tomorrow night, tomorrow afternoon, we have more G1. But until then, remember to stay tuned.